Good morning, everybody. This is Steve Fletcher with the Trumpet for My People. Today is May 1st, 2019, and I am very excited to share this update with you today. I received an understanding yesterday based on what I shared about the Noah tribulation timeline and how we can see the end of the Great Flood timeline or the Great Tribulation timeline being May 21st, 2020. May 21st, 2020, the 27th day of the second month, as is written in Genesis. So, as I got to think about this, I wanted to ask my wife a question. And I said, so Martha, if the Lord wanted to reveal to us the end from the beginning and the true understanding that there is a way to understand the timeline, there is a way to understand how everything will begin, how everything will end, how would he do it? How would the Lord reveal it to us? And my wife said, well, it would be like in biblical times when God spoke to his people, everything was fulfilled always according to the word of his servants. And there would be no errors at all along the way. And I said, okay, so let's think about this. Let's think about Moses, for example. Okay, Moses was called by God to deliver the people out of Egypt and to take them into the promised land. Okay, so the plan of God was the plan A of God, okay, was let's get the people out of Egypt and give them the law and give them 1 year to understand everything about the law and to erect the tabernacle. And then in the second year, they will enter the promised land. That was plan A, okay? Plan A was leave Egypt and go to the promised land 1 year later. Plan A did not work, okay? Plan A did not work, and it was the second year, and Moses sent the spies into the promised land. They were supposedly going to go in and spy out the land so that they could know how to go in and take the land by battle. And the 12 spies that were sent into the promised land, there were only 2 good spies, and 10 spies came back and gave a bad report that it was not possible to go into the promised land. And all the people followed then the bad spies. So, if we want to say, if God wants to show us something, it should be as in biblical times when everything goes according to plan. I don't see that happening really anywhere. And so the story of Moses gives us the understanding that Moses was a man, the people he was leading were men, there are errors along the way, and even Moses was not allowed to go into the promised land. Moses was God's man. This was Moses' calling to bring the people out of Egypt, to take them into the promised land. He did not see that fulfilled. He did not go into the promised land. And so basically this idea of how will God reveal to us, it should be like in biblical days. Well, it is like in biblical days. There's trial and error. We search along the way. We try to understand. We take one step at a time. We do what we're called to do today. We're obedient today, and the Lord will show us along the way where we are and how to get where we need to go. So I have an amazing revelation today. Now, this has to do with the tribulation timeline that begins this year on the 17th day of the second month. The flood begins on IR 17, May 21st and 22nd. And then if we go through the tribulation timeline or the flood timeline, then we can see that the flood ends. Okay? If the flood begins on the day, if the Great Tribulation begins on the day of the flood, then we can see how the Great Tribulation will end on the same timeline, 1 year later. And so the flood ended on IR 27, the 27th day of the second month. And this brings us to May 21st, 2020. Okay, now, the big question is, where is the 42-month reign of the Antichrist? Where is the 42-month reign of the Antichrist? Well, let's go from the end. Now that we see the end, okay, because we need to know where the reign of the Antichrist begins, but we also can't understand that until we see the end. Once we see the end, then we can see, does the 42-month reign of Antichrist line up with everything else? Okay, well, now let's look at May 21st, 2020. If this is the end of the Great Tribulation, which is what I am sharing, the days are shortened. The Great Tribulation is as in the days of Noah, and the flood was 1 year long, okay? So if this is the end, then let's go from here and we go back 42 months. So if we go from May 21st, 2020, and we go back 42 months. Now 42 months is not an exact day, okay? It's given us 42 months. It's not given the exact number of days in this. 42 months can be anywhere from 1,260 to 1,290 days. Once we hit 1,290 days, then it's 43 months. But from 1,260 days, it's 42 months, 3.5 years. And we have an entire month within that where we can see that it's 42 months. The total number of months is 42 months. So if we go back from May 21st, 2020, go back 42 months, it brings us to the 17th of November of 2016. Now this was the major date in everything that I was watching after the abomination. It's day 1335 from the abomination. Okay, the Revelation 13, which is after the Revelation 12 sign. Okay, so if we're looking at the Revelation 12 sign as a marker within the understanding of the rise of the Antichrist, because in Revelation 13 it talks about the 42-month reign of the Antichrist. So where will the 42-month reign of the Antichrist begin? Well, it's connected to the Revelation 12 sign. Okay, it says they worshiped the dragon which gave power unto the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him? And there was given him a mouth, speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. 42 months is the power given to the dragon to continue. Okay? The beast will continue for 42 months. Okay? Those of you who have been following me for a number of years know that the timeline that the Lord showed to me was the same timeline given to Dewey Bruton from the Abomination of Desolation on March 22nd, 2013. Dewey Bruton was not able to see the Obama Nobel Peace Prize. He was not able to see the beginning of the Revelation 12 sign, but he saw the date of the abomination many years previous to it. So Dewey Bruton gave us a timeline that really panned out to perfection as far as the abomination of desolation on March 22nd, 2013. From there, if we add 1,335 days, it brings us to November 17th, 2016. Now, this is the timeline that we were watching, and we are still watching. This is continually coming into play, and this is the biblical revelation. That is why this is the understanding of the biblical revelation, the abomination of desolation, the timeline of the covenant with many. Okay, and so we have the abomination timeline, the 7-year covenant with many, the Nobel Peace Prize, October 9th, 2009, adding 1,260 days, which is 3.5 years, brings us to March 22nd, 2013. This was Obama in the holy place, standing where he ought not to stand, making an agreement with Israel called the Unbreakable Alliance. Then we add 1,290 days to that. Obama was again in Israel for the funeral of Shimon Peres. So 1,260 days in Israel, 1,290 days in Israel. Day 1,335, Barack Obama was in Berlin. And this was the day that the Revelation 12 sign was beginning, as Jupiter was just entering Virgo. Okay, so I shared from the very beginning that the most important date on the Revelation 12 sign was November 17th, 2016. We know that the internet frenzy and the craze was the actual day of the sign, September 23rd, 2017. I do want to let everybody know that even though Scott Clark was the main promoter of September 23rd, 2017, and he was also a main promoter of mocking me and bringing forth many videos trying to get people to stop listening to me, mocking me, and Scott Clark has actually renounced the Revelation 12 sign. Okay, Scott Clark does not know what to do now with the Revelation 12 sign because it did not happen according to his prefabricated doctrines. Okay, because the Revelation 12 sign should have been a mid-tribulation or a pre-tribulation sign, and it just did not work. It did not pan out. And so if you want to listen to Scott Clark renounce the Revelation 12 sign, you can listen to his interview with Robert Breaker. Scott Clark did an interview with Robert Breaker, and in that interview, he actually denies that the Revelation 12 sign was the Revelation 12 sign. Okay, so for those who think that September 23rd was more important, or for those who think that Scott Clark was somehow the one with the amazing revelation. Okay, and I just share this because this is, it's been kind of an ongoing thing that we've had to deal with along the way. And based on Scott Clark, who's really now gone way off the wall with rightly dividing, he's a heretic. So he's preaching wrong doctrine, saying that the books of Paul are more important than the books of Jesus, than the Gospels, than the words of Paul are more important than the words of Jesus. This is heresy at its finest. So, anyway, November 17th, the beginning of the Revelation 12 sign connects us with the abomination of desolation by 1,335 days. Okay, so this is the sign of the rise of the Antichrist, the birth of the Antichrist. The Revelation 12 sign, Jupiter entering Virgo. It's the day of the beginning of the Revelation 12 sign. Day 1,335 from the abomination. And this is the biblical understanding, how we can see that we are led from the Nobel Peace Prize to the abomination to the beginning of the Revelation 12 sign, and now the beginning of the Revelation 12 sign on November 17th, 2016 brings us by 42 months to May 21st, 2020. So here is the rise of the Antichrist, the Revelation 12 sign, the beginning of the 42-month reign of the Antichrist, the Revelation 12 sign. So it was on this day, November 16th and 17th, 2016, day 1335 from the abomination, Barack Obama in Berlin at the seat of Satan as Jupiter was entering Virgo, the Revelation 12 sign. After the Revelation 12 sign, in Revelation 13, it says he will continue for 42 months. So here is the Revelation 12 sign, the beginning of it on November 17, 2016, plus 42 months, the 42-month reign of the Antichrist. Now we can see this if we go all the way back to 1947, the order to restore Jerusalem, the United Nations partition plan of Palestine, adding 62 weeks according to Daniel 9:24 through 27. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the command to restore and build Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince, there shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. After the 62 weeks, then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. But in the middle of the week he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering, and on the wing of abominations shall be one who makes desolate. So we see that from the order to restore Jerusalem, there are 62 weeks. That brings us to 2009. From 1947, adding 62 weeks brings us to 2009. This is the covenant with many, the Obama Nobel Peace Prize, and that has a date on it, October 9th, 2009. Then we go 3.5 years to the abomination, March 22nd, 2013, and then we go 1,335 days, and it brings us to November 17th, 2016, and it says that there will be to Messiah the Prince 62 weeks and 7 weeks. So if we want to come to Messiah the Prince, which is the Antichrist in this case, because this is a dual prophecy that was fulfilled in Jesus Christ at the first coming, it's being fulfilled in the Antichrist in the second coming. And if we go then from 1947, adding 62 weeks, and then adding 7 weeks, it brings us to 2016. And then we have the 42-month reign of the Antichrist from 2016. So here is the completed timeline. If you want to study this, I put this out in a very easy to understand way. Okay, the timeline completed with the 42 months. Number 1, the order to restore Jerusalem was the partition plan of Palestine, November 29th, 1947. From the order to restore Jerusalem, that's where the Daniel timeline begins. Then it says, after 62 years, there will be the covenant with many. So we go from 1947, adding 62 years, brings us to 2009, the Obama Nobel Peace Prize, October 9th, 2009. Number 3, from the covenant with many, the midweek abomination, 3.5 years, 1,260 days, brings us to March 22nd, 2013. After the abomination, according to Daniel 12, 11, and 12, after the abomination, there will be 1,290 and 1,335 days. Number 4, 1,290 days after the abomination, Obama again in Israel as another step in this to confirm Barack Obama in Israel on day 1,290 for the funeral of Shimon Peres, September 30th, 2016. Number 5, day 1335. The Revelation 12 sign begins as Jupiter enters Virgo. And Obama is in Berlin on November 17th, 2016. So here is the 70 years of Daniel. It's the order to restore Jerusalem. After 62 years, the covenant with many. There will be a midweek abomination. And then after the final 7 years, after the end of the 7 years, bringing us to 2016, that is the rise of the Messiah. And how is the rise of the Messiah, the Antichrist, the anti-Messiah? Well, it's connected to the abomination by 1335 days. So November 17th, 2016, the beginning of the Revelation 12 sign is the entrance of the Antichrist. It's the rise of the Antichrist, the birth of the Antichrist. And this is where the 42-month reign of the Antichrist begins. And November 17th, 2016, adding 42 months, brings us to May 21st, 2020, which is exactly what we are seeing with the Noah tribulation timeline. Okay, so here is the Great Tribulation timeline, May 21st to 22nd, 2019. This is IR 17. This is 7 days after the 10th of IR, which is May 14th, the end of the 70 years of Israel. The 71st birthday of Israel. That is the day the ark is closing. And 7 days later is the day of the great flood. So this is our Great Tribulation timeline, and it ends then on IR 27 in 2020, which happens to be the exact same day on the Gregorian calendar. So between this completed timeline with the 42 months and the Noah tribulation timeline, there's a lot to study. I do want to remind everybody that the day the flood begins on May 22nd, IR 17, is also 1,335 days from the meeting between Barack Obama and Pope Francis in the White House. So all of these timelines coming together is no coincidence. So if God wants to show us the truth about all things and the understanding of the timelines, how would he do it? Step by step, one step at a time, one piece of understanding at a time, until it all comes together and fits together like a perfect puzzle. So I thank you for your time today listening to this message, and I pray you are blessed. This is Steve Fletcher with the Trumpet for My People, the sign of his coming revealed.